Hey guys, it's Alex coming to you from super sunny South Florida. Almost December, 80 degrees. Whew, it's nice. So the car is back home, and what I'm gonna do today is a couple of things. I gotta get it ready to sell. I have a guy that says he wants to buy it, but we'll see. There's a couple of things I want to do to this car and do in general before I get rid of it. Okay, first of all, got a new coating on our pulleys here. It's sort of like a grayish color. I don't know if you can tell with the camera, but it's like a grayish color, and this is a 79 millimeter pulley. I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to show you what needs to happen when you pulley down quite a bit. You have to change your idler when you change to anything smaller than a 79, and I'll show you that process. And I'm also going to install a new set of injectors, FICs. They want me to put it on the car, get some data on them, and see how they react. I already put the tune on the HP Tuners deal. I'm going to put them on the car, show you the process of swapping out the injectors on a VMP blower car, and then we'll go take it for a drive, see how they act, see if the data is good, and then see how longevity wise how this coating holds up to this pulley. But you know, I got to get some filler video out there for you guys out there, because I know you're going to start chirping and shit about where's Vegas YOLO, where the fuck you at, where are your videos. So here we go. So when you start making good amount of horsepower on these VMP blowers, don't get me wrong, I'm sorry I got shit all over the car, but the car at Mod Nationals went 10-1-139 with a 75 millimeter pulley. It's lived most of its life with a 79 millimeter pulley. This is about 11 pounds of boost. This is 12 to 12 or so. The 72 that is currently on it, I know this is a 72, so don't even have to ask, but it is quite smaller than the 75 that's up against it right now. The 72 millimeter pulley, it's about 13 pounds of boost, and the 69 millimeter pulley is about 14 pounds of boost. You have to change the idler over. You can keep using the stock belt. See how tight? No, it's actually not that tight. It's actually pretty good. It puts a decent amount of tension on it. So if you have a 75, 82, or a 79 millimeter pulley, you can get away with this idler. I believe this is a 90 millimeter idler, if I'm not 100% sure, but this guy is a 100 millimeter idler. How do you replace them? Well, down there, this wrench is on the tensioner already. Come on, zoom in. And we're going to crank on that guy, relieve the tension on the belt, and then we're going to show you how we swap everything over. So as you can tell, when you start cranking on this guy, the belt will loosen up. Oh, this belt needs replacing pretty soon. So I'm going to try to do it, you know, got to turn the camera off to get this done. Once the tension is relieved, you can just take the belt off of the pulley, and what I like to do is I like to tuck it back here for a couple of reasons. If you lose it and it, you know, undoes itself from all the rest of the accessories, it's a total pain in the ass. So what I like to do is like to pinch it down here so that it keeps tension on the rest of the accessories, and you can work with this guy and that guy and not lose anything that's going on down there. It'll stay tight on the crank, it'll stay tight on the AC, everything else will be free for you to play around with. Get yourself a 13 millimeter socket, loosen the idler, and remove it. So a lot of people are going to ask, well, what's all necessary to install a 100 millimeter idler when you use a smaller pulley like a 75, a 72, or 69? Well, if you can see right here on the Fiat bracket, I had to clearance that at Mod Nationals with a hand file. That sucked. But basically, you can see where I hit the end of the file up against the back of the head. But you got to clearance this guy quite a bit. And once you clearance it, you'll be able to put a 100 millimeter idler in there without much of an issue. So now let's take the blower pulley off. Okay, now in order to take the blower pulley, pulley for the blower, take the, oh geez, I can't even talk today. In order to take the blower pulley off, you need an 8 millimeter. Come on, baby, focus. There you go, 8 millimeter wrench or socket. Now, the reason I never use an impact on anything is because I'm one of these guys that go by feel. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to grab hold of this guy and just hit this guy with my fist, and it should come right off. So I'm going to put the camera right here, and you can sort of see what I'm talking about. Okay. So you take a hold of the blower snout, right, and you just put your thumb out the end of it so it doesn't come flying off, and just give it a whack with like the back of your fist, basically, as if you're hammer fisting somebody. MMA guys know what I'm talking about. Hold on to the pulley, little hammer fist, back of the pulley. That's it. Nothing crazy. You don't have to get an impact out. I really hate impacts because the way you cross thread shit is via the impact. So a little old school millwright ingenuity, you can do a little, you know, more finesse work than to force it out with the impact and potentially screw up threads. Okay, pulleys out. So we have a 79, 75, and a 72 millimeter pulley. The only thing you have to change between them both is the idler. Big idler. A lot of people ask me the same question. Hey, I saw this guy on the internet that has an idler way the fuck up here with an auxiliary bracket. Not necessary. I'm sorry. 100 millimeter idler goes all the way down to 69 millimeter pulley, and you have no belt slip. I don't have any belt dust on my hood. I have everything else under my hood, but I don't have any belt dust under my hood because you simply do not need an auxiliary bracket when you're using anything up to a 69 millimeter pulley. Anything under a 69, which is a 63, okay, you need all the help you can get. But at that point, I prefer you go 8 rib, which is, no, I have an 8 rib here somewhere. So here, this is an 8 rib 79 millimeter pulley. I know it doesn't make any sense to have an 8 rib 79, but just kind of show you the differences between an 8 rib and a 6 rib. But is it necessary? Nah. Donnie's car is still on a 6 rib 69 millimeter pulley, no belt slip, with a 100 millimeter idler. Don't believe the hype on the internet, guys. So let's get this 79 installed. Keep on cranking. Process is pretty straightforward, but I'll show you anyway. Go ahead and put the pulley on, line it up for the holes, start putting bolts in it. Okay, so boom, pulley swap done. 79 installed. Did the same way when I took it off. I whacked it a little bit just to final tightening. I am not going to hit it with an impact because I'm not a moron. I went ahead and reinstalled the, I think this is a 90 millimeter idler with the 13 millimeter bolt. Clearancing is not needed on a idler like this. And again, you do not need to remove this guy to loosen the tension on the tensioner right down there. I have a long handle with a 17 millimeter deep socket. Does the trick. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take all this apart and replace the injectors. Okay, now I do have the DD149, the PMAS. I basically like to refer it as the PMAS because it's a PMAS, you know, cold air basically, because the PMAS MAF housing. But this is the D149 kit, okay, from 1320 Junkie Performance. So one thing I found out with the DD149 is you cannot, I repeat, you cannot use it on a VMP Twin Jet 67 without some hocus pocus gayness. See all this bullshit I got going on here? I used to have a monoblade, and I lent it to somebody, and he has a better use for it because he makes a lot more power than I do. But think about it, this guy went 100, almost 140 mile an hour in the quarter on a stock motor with a Twin Jet 67. But I had a hell of a time making this DD149 fit the Twin 67, because right here it's super tight and this boot doesn't want to go all the way up against it, and then it doesn't allow this clamp to actually get in between there. I can only get the clamp into there, so it's just a tremendous nightmare to try to get it all installed. So I went ahead and jerry rigged up a deal here that didn't really look great, but it got the job done, and that's kind of the way I do shit. Ideally, the DD149 fits well like in a Whipple elliptical or something like that, something that this coupler can go directly onto. Unfortunately, the VMP Twin Jet 67 is smaller, so all this stuff has to be put in its place and notched and all this stuff for the DD149 to fit. I don't recommend the DD149 on the Twin Jet 67. You can get away with the PMAS 120, no problem. When you're going big boy horsepower and you upgrade to a big mono, then you should upgrade to the DD149. But if you want to jerry rig it like I did, you can make it fit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the passenger side injectors first, because you don't have to take the blower off to access them. Now, do you know how you know, or you can tell, if someone impacted something in, and then you can ask them if they did or didn't? Is if you hear that tink when you're first loosening it up. There. They impact this fucker in. I hate impacts. Okay, I removed the supercharger. Now, I didn't have to remove the supercharger to do what I needed to do, but I wanted to take this time to show you guys. This sucker has 100 and, well, the car has 100 and something thousand miles on it. But look at how good the rotors look, the coating. I mean, look, it's been used up, but there's no chips, no anything like that. Now, when you're buying a used blower and someone blows it up, typically shit goes up in there and kills it, and it compresses and it destroys it, and you'll see aluminum chunks on the rotor blades. This guy literally has no chunks, no nothing. There's some coating missing, but there is no chunks. That's literally coating just coming off. But this guy has probably over 50 to 60,000 miles of hard ass miles through it. Bouncing it off the limiter, doing all the bullshit. Absolutely flawless still. This is a great piece. So the lower is a point of contention for a lot of people, especially some tuners. Some tuners have been giving you plain and simply false information. So yes, 9 times out of 10, bigger is better for the lower intercooler. Bigger the better, that's fine. But have they ever talked to you about fin design? Have they ever talked to you about the amount of fins, the type of fins? F1 cars literally have like one little fin and it cools just fine because they're going at a crazy speed. Some other people will lay a ruler across the whole intercooler and say this one is bigger. Why does the intercooler need to be bigger? Because the blower generates more heat. Ah, now you understand why the lower needs to be bigger if it generates more heat. If the blower is efficient and it doesn't generate more heat, the lower doesn't have to be that big. So remember, what you read on the internet, take it with a grain of salt. Because why do you need that much cooling if the blower doesn't generate that much heat? Now, back to doing the injectors. 10 millimeter, I already took that guy out. Let's finish this side. I already got the other side installed. As you can see, the blue injectors installed. Got to work on this side now. Injectors installed on the driver's side. Put the blower back on, put the hoses back on, put the connections back on, put a tune in it, and let's party. Now, when reinstalling everything back, you've changed injectors and you've told me you change injectors and I gave you a tune for the right injectors, and then all of a sudden the car's running like absolute dog shit. Yes, it's possible that I fat fingered it and not give you the right injector data, but if I am adamant, looking back at the history, that I gave you the right injector data, look at 3 main connections that are going to be your issue. This throttle body connection, this is the throttle position sensor. The electrical motor, the drive-by-wire deal. Make sure it's connected. Connected. Where the hell is that connection? This guy got away from me. That connection, that guy, and the mass airflow sensor. Guys, unless you have a massive leak, this car should run just great, especially if the throttle body data and the injector data is on point. So those 3 connections, aside from a massive vacuum leak, is what you're going to look out for the moment you either change injectors, change cold air, change anything where you have to disconnect everything. Just go over your shit again and make sure you connected everything back before emailing me and saying my tune sucks. Now, if you just want to test out to make sure the injectors are running, it's a 1000cc injector that's a different manufacturer, but typically with ID 1000 data, which is what's in this car will start. There you go. So, if you wanted to check for vacuum leaks or, leaks or whatever nature, you can start it with the old tune if it's around the same. It's going to be richer or leaner depending on how the injector is designed. But now let's put the proper injector in there. It was about 20% on the rich side with the ID 1000 data that I was using for the previous injector. So I'm going to see what their data goes and translates to in terms of the data log. And this is why I tell people to start sampling logs once the engine coolant temp has reached 170 or 180. If I was to look at a log and look at just short-term fuel trims, I would have been like, oh, it needs a little tweak on the math because this started at 21-22%. But the higher the coolant temp goes, the car starts to fuel properly. So they should be within 10 to 9%. I'll make some tweaks, see if I have to tweak the low slope or something, or tweak the actual math, which is what I'm thinking I might have to tweak because the DD149, I don't think is flowing enough air to properly get a good clean signal at this power level. Well, the FICEs seem to be a hit. I plopped in their data, and the data, even though it says 10% because I'm letting off, once you go through the RPM range, it seems to be blocked by the sun. So it seems to be within a certain percentage, but being that I have the DD149, idle kind of tells me more than anything. Idle when the air is passing through it nice and easy. It idles nice. I also am one of those guys that likes to tool around until it'll little off. I'm one of those guys that likes to tool around the neighborhood real low RPM like. And I noticed that these injectors are very, well, I wouldn't say these injectors, but for whatever reason, the car seemed a lot smoother when you're at very low RPM, almost lugging the engine around. Fourth gear. Yeah, before I get a little bit of a hesitation there, real smooth, real smooth. I mean, so far so good. I like them. So luckily FIC fuel injector. Is it fuel injector clinic? I'm not 100%. I don't want to misname them. I want to look up the thing and make sure I'm giving them the right props. Has good data on their website. They have an HP tuners layout and a SCT layout, so don't be afraid of getting yourself some FICs because they seem to do the job. Man, it's nice outside. Look how pretty it is. God damn it, I love living here. Okay guys, what did we learn today? Well, we learned that I'm still not wearing my seatbelt consistently. We learned a little bit about intercoolers and how much bullshit there is on the internet about them. We learned how to swap a pulley on a VMP blower. We learned how to make sure you get the right idler for the right pulley size. What you don't need, what you do need for certain idlers and certain pulley sizes. You also saw how easy it is to change injectors. I did it within a matter of, I don't know, 25-30 minutes, and that was including videoing the whole deal. And FIC injectors, a new injector coming out on the market that's a full stainless design that seems to be pretty legit. The data is good. It has HP tuners layout and SCT layout. So yeah, hopefully this video helps you guys decide on a couple of things: pulley sizes, injectors, and to actually work on your car yourself. Don't be afraid, because if a moron like me could do it, anyone could do it. Thanks for listening, guys. Look out for more tutorials and videos coming up soon now that I have a little bit more time and my schedule has finally evened out. We'll talk to you later, guys.